Hey everybody, it's Debbie Levitt, and it is time for Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Welcome, all of you low ego action heroes from wherever you are. I was looking a little yellow and I tried to color correct me. Did I make myself too blue? Only you can tell me that. I don't know. It is time for Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and the question URL is on the screen. And I'm going to try something new today. I'm going to, let's try the same old thing. If you have questions, you are welcome to ask them through the anonymous URL if you don't want me reading your name out or knowing who you are. And you can also ask them through the LinkedIn or the YouTube chat. I will be monitoring both. I'm just opening up all my windows. You see I'm a busy little bee with windows. We do have 2 questions that were sent in ahead of time, so I'm going to start with those, but then keep sending in your questions, and I will open up my email app and make sure that I am checking for questions. Remember that I stay here about an hour, so hopefully we can get all questions in about an hour, especially since we might have some dinner reservations tonight and I'm going to end on time. So let's check the questions. Nothing yet. Okay, so let's just check that streaming is working, and then I will start with the 2 questions we have, and then I will jump in on the questions that you ask as I go. All right, LinkedIn told everybody I'm streaming. Hello, 2 people there. How are you doing? Let's see, how do I look? Not too yellow. All right, so let's jump in on the questions that I received during the week. So just so you know, this URL here with the anonymous question asking is available all week. Ask your questions and I will save them for every Tuesday office hours and answer them first. And then if you can't make it live, you can always watch the stuff later, and everybody can hear me, right? Sound on, I hope. Okay, tell me if you can't hear me, but it looks good in my system. All right, first question was, what is the best framework for measuring user experience? Now, of course, your first question might be, what is a framework? Now, as far as I can tell, the types of things that are typically called frameworks are some of these methodologies and, as you've heard me say, aspirologies. Methodologies that don't deserve any credibility. So those are things like design thinking, design sprints, lean UX, and then you have some variations of user-centered design and human-centered design like Double Diamond. These are usually our frameworks, and as you guys know, I don't believe in most of them. I see them more as aspirologies. I see them more as hurting our universe than helping our universe. But so let's get to the core of the question, which is measuring user experience. Now, when every project starts, we should take a look at how we intend to measure the user experience. How do we know that this project is going well, going badly, successful, meeting and achieving goals, not meeting or achieving goals? We've got to figure this out. This is where typically your metrics, your KPIs, maybe some OKRs are going to come into play. And sometimes UX picks their own, and sometimes marketing picks some, or we work in conjunction with them, and different people might have different ones. So how do we measure user experience? Now, there are 2 general ways to approach this. One is going to be qualitative, watching people, talking to people, and one is going to be quantitative, surveys, checking rating scores. So things that don't directly involve talking to people, but sometimes still surface some information or some measurement of things. Some people try to use Google Analytics or something like a Lean Plum or a Mix panel to try to say, oh, here we go. We've tracked people's usage and we can see they're doing this. That often needs to be augmented by some better UX or CX research so that we know who's doing that and why. Because knowing 57% of people did a thing or didn't do a thing is usually not enough to correct it or fix it or work on it. So the best way to approach measuring user experience is to determine what do we expect to change here? Do we expect more conversions? Do we expect fewer support tickets? Do we expect more people signing up for our trial? So you've got to determine when you're going in the project what you intend to measure, how you will measure that, how often you'll measure that, and I don't believe you need a framework. It doesn't take design thinking to measure user experience. It doesn't take double diamond. It doesn't take lean UX, which isn't good at anything. So don't worry about frameworks. Frameworks are not totally your buddy in the UX world. Sometimes they make us lazy. Sometimes they make us feel like we're just filling in canvases that we found in Mural and Miro. Don't go there. Keep that critical thinking hat on. I think my chair is a little too tall today. Keep the critical thinking hat on and make sure that you are really looking at what should change quantitatively or qualitatively to know that our project is successful, going in the right direction, things like that. Plexus is here, and Plexus says, can you use Adobe and Google Analytics alone to get the data needed to measure the user experience? Plexus is throwing me softballs today. How nice of you, Brett. Let's add that to the list of questions that I'll put in the in the YouTube description. And the person who sent the other anonymous question, I'll get to that in a moment. So can you use Adobe and Google Analytics to get the data needed to measure the user experience? In general, my answer is no. That many analytics let's work on this for a moment. The rain in Spain. Many analytics packages, I still didn't say that right, can certainly give us what feels like data and what feels like information, but it doesn't really tell us enough to be able to act on it. And in my opinion, and someone may disagree, but your data can be meaningless if it's not actionable. So for example, the example I love to use is when you go to a public bathroom and there's happy faces and sad faces and you can press those. That's our analytics. We know X% of people pressed a face. And in Google Analytics and other things, we can know X% of people searched a word, clicked on a thing, but we don't really know why. We don't know what they're happy about, sad about. We don't know what their experience was. We may not understand what their pain points are. Analytics packages don't tell us these things. So I tell people it's okay to have analytics tools as part of your arsenal, but use them to spin up qualitative research. Use them to say, 70% of people clicked sad face when leaving the toilet. Maybe we should spin up some research to learn why everybody's so sad coming out of our toilets. And then you will know what, who, why, how, and then you have a shot of being able to act on it. So remember, if you can't act on it, it might end up being vanity metrics. See the archive for vanity metrics. Hold on, I've got my system here today. Let's work on this, see if that works. There you go. That looks pretty good. Ping, ping. Go back to the live stream podcasts playlist in the YouTube Delta CX channel and look for vanity metrics. We did a whole podcast on vanity metrics with the lovely Jonathan Tesser. So be careful of that kind of stuff because very often companies feel confident when they see something from Google Analytics, Qualtrics, Mixpanel, things like that, and etc. Plexus says, I'm asking that, well, I don't have to tell you what he says. We can load it up into the system. It says, I am asking it this way because at work, the analytics team thinks their data can be a primary source for UX and is confused why our UX team aren't completely immersed in their systems. And we can also see this is happening from the job descriptions that we see. More and more, I'm seeing things like UX researcher must know Google Analytics. And then I'm like, oh, nobody should work there. That's going to hurt. So I know that many people think that good user research is reviewing analytical packages, and many of those people are just, the way that I try to address those people is, with a little bit of empathy. I don't have an empathy hat. I have a good CX hat done well, so let's try that. It's a little bit green screening, but stay with me. It's very green screening. Stay with me. My head is I promise there isn't a hole in my head. I'll have to switch out hats. So the way that I try to explain this to people who think that, because I think they're usually coming from like web design, and they think, yeah, everything we wanted to know about our website and web design land, that came from Google Analytics and these other packages. And sometimes I say to people, you know, that's the way we used to do things, but really nowadays, here's how we do it. So that's the way I sometimes try to snap people out of bad ideas, is to make it sound like once upon a time they might have been right, but now they're just a little bit outdated, and let me freshen you up a bit. So, Harshit, I see your question, and you will be third on the list. We've got a couple of other questions before you, but I am happy to see you here today. Welcome. So, Plexus, you know the way it is. You know, these packages don't do it. Frameworks don't really do it. You know, there's nothing in design thinking that says, and here's how you measure if that was successful. In fact, design thinking doesn't even tell you to plan your research or do any information architecture. So we really can't turn to some of these aspirologies to try to save us there. So I hope that answers that for anonymous person, and for Brett's follow-up question. Let me know if you have follow-up question. Also tell me if I look strangely colored, because I tried to do some color correction on my camera and make myself less yellow, but I'm worried I made myself too cyan. You tell me. I can't tell. I am not an artist. I'm a musician. Let's look at our next anonymous question. Should a UX designer communicate directly with stakeholders? How should this communication be? Now, I believe that there's no reason for us to not communicate directly with stakeholders. This one came in through email. There's no reason for us to not communicate directly with... Oh, great. We've got 3 more questions in the email, so I will get to you, I promise. So the problem is that when you start putting people between people, and you end up siloed. So when people tell me, I'm not allowed to speak to engineering, I have to go through this person. Or I'm not allowed to speak to engineering, and there's nobody I can go through. This is not good. So when you say, should I speak to stakeholders? Question 1 is, do you have access to them? But I would definitely suggest being connected with stakeholders. You want them to know who you are and what they do, and you want to be able to ask them some questions like how they will measure the success of a particular project or feature or product. It's important to know how the stakeholder sees success, and how the stakeholder sees how this fits strategically into the into the product world. What we don't want to do with stakeholders is make them feel like we need them to design this with us. The problem is when it seems like we're asking stakeholders to co-design with us or design for us or sketch their ideas, we set ourselves up usually for disaster, because very often a stakeholder doesn't stop at sketching ideas. They basically assume, now we're going to do it. We're going to do the stakeholder's idea. And sometimes UX people paint themselves into a corner by trying to be friendly and sharing and, ooh, I'll just run a team workshop. Now they're being pressured by the stakeholder to do the stakeholder's idea, or pressured by the product manager to do the product manager's idea. So what I tell people is that for stakeholders, they normally don't want to be involved in all the day-to-day. That's why they have the team. So I usually check with a stakeholder and say, how often do you want me to check in with you? Do you want to see what I'm working on every other week, weekly? Are you going to come to the agile showcases? You know, what's the best way for me to keep you posted on my progress? Now, notice some of the words I chose. I didn't say anything like, I need you to approve my work, tell me if you like what I'm doing. Get out of that habit. Remember, what did we talk about last week? Maggie P will tell you, owning it. Stop giving up your power and autonomy to crappy people who don't understand what we do and then hoping that they like you. This is not 4th grade. This is not about, do people like me? Please like me. We have to make sure we're doing the best work possible and that we're trying to make decisions in our own domain. So my general advice for stakeholders would be to talk to them about their goals and their needs, and because that's important. We want to craft a coworker experience based on that empathy we're supposed to be showing our customers. Let's show it to our coworkers. But remember, we don't want to give up our power. We are specialists. We are experts. We are knowledgeable. There's no reason to show up and be like, can you approve this? Do you like this? Don't do that. And Maggie's adding to Harshit's question, so let me copy and paste that into into that. Let's check a couple of the things coming in from the anonymous. So anonymous, I see I've got 3 questions, so let me add them now. So if you are sending in anonymous questions, please know that I will get to them. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got 4 anonymous questions. So give me a second. I'm pasting them all into what will end up the description on YouTube so that people who drop by the video will know that, okay. And one more, and I will get to these. No, I'm not yellowish. Thank you, person who put that into a, a question. I want to make sure I am not cyan today. All right, so let's get into the questions as we see them. Let's start with friend of the show, Harshit. And Harshit asks, and isn't that a great picture? Harshit asks, hey, Debbie, what are the 5 most important things to keep in mind while doing user interviews? And Maggie added to that and said, what are do's and don'ts when doing user interviews? Well, you know, this really could be its own hour, if not more. So I'm just going to try to give you the short version, but I really suggest that you search my YouTube channel for research. We've had Michelle Ronson on 4 times, and we've talked about different aspects of UX research, and sometimes portfolios and things like that. So definitely check the archives for some things we may have covered already. And then Harshit has a follow-up question to his own question, which I feel like I've answered before, but so we'll go through Harshit's and Maggie's questions, and we'll get back to the people sending them in from the email. So I promise I am seeing you there. I'm here for an hour. We got plenty of time. So I don't know if I'll get to 5, but some of the most important things to keep in mind while doing user interviews is, number 1, be neutral. So remember, you can't make any faces. If somebody says something or does something, you can't go. You know, I always joke, like, don't be a New Yorker. Don't be like, you know, so first of all, you have to sound neutral. You have to be neutral. If you listen to me doing interviews, I try to sound very positive. I sometimes raise my voice a little bit, and I try to sound very friendly and non-threatening, and so friendly. And I try to stay neutral. When the people are showing me something, if this is an observational, like a remote observational thing over Zoom, which I've been doing a lot of lately, I turn off my camera when it's time for them to show me something. And that's partially so that they're not distracted by my face, and partially so that if I see them do something weird, I can go, and they're never going to see me do that. So number 1, you've got to maintain neutrality in your voice, in your face. It's hard, you know, it's something you'll have to practice. Practice in a mirror, practice with friends, you know, practice when someone says something completely banana pants crazy to you and you go, oh, thank you, I'll make a note of that. Clap. I need a clapboard. So that's one thing, super neutral. Number 2, listen for inconsistencies. So, for example, there are times where I'm doing an interview with someone and they'll say, oh, yeah, you know, I hate the way I have to pick this thing on this page. The way I have to pick this is so annoying. It's a waste of time. I really don't like it. And then later on, I might ask them, you know, what did you like about this page? And they'll go, oh, that thing I had to pick. And I'll be like, hold on there, little doggy. You know, earlier, I won't say that, but I'll say, hey, you know, earlier you indicated that you were very frustrated with that. You know, let's go into this a little bit more. So, so one thing is look for people to kind of negate themselves and dig into that a little bit. Another thing is dig into anything that sounds like it should be dug into. I did some practice interviews with some apprentices I'm working with, and I tried to throw them each a curveball. I said at one point to one of their questions, I said, yeah, I might not do that because it could be very risky. And I checked if any of them said, risky, tell me more about this risk. You know, what do you think is going to cause this risk? What do you think will happen? And nobody took the bait. So I think when somebody says something like, yeah, if I did that, it would be dangerous. Or, you know, if I did that, it would be risky. Or I don't think I would do that. Like, it's okay to go off the script and dig a little bit more if you feel like it's safe and appropriate, and if it drives you to learn more about what you're there to learn. You know, you don't have to go after everything. Sometimes people end up on tangents, and I don't ask them follow-up questions because I want to get them back on track. But if it is relevant to the core of what you're looking to learn, learn, and they throw you this little hint that there's more to the story, but they stop talking. Go after it. Go after it. I think that was 3 or 4 things. So those are some of the do's. Don'ts, as I said, were like don't be non-neutral. Don't make faces. Don't sigh. Even a sigh can really say a lot to people. What do you think that means? I sound frustrated. I sound, you're going too slow. So people read into these things, even if you're just breathing. Make sure your camera doesn't pick up your microphone doesn't pick up a lot of your breathing. Don'ts when doing interviews. Don't give your opinions of anything. Hey, that's bad. Certainly no negative opinions. Oh, I don't know. Why'd you do that? Be careful the way you ask questions. Why'd you do that can accidentally sound very judgmental. So you have to find gentler way to say these things. Hey, I noticed you picked this thing from this list over there, and can you tell me more about why you made that selection? That tends to go down a lot easier than, whoa, why'd you do that? So how you phrase stuff can be really important and keep people in a good vibe with you. I think that covers some, again, this is really a topic unto itself. But I would say those are a couple of do's and don'ts when doing interviews. And Harshit says don't lead. Yeah, so obviously you never want to be like, we worked really hard on this. What do you think of it? Or we're thinking about adding a feature that would have a drop-down menu here that let you pick a thing. Would you like that? People can't imagine stuff. So again, you definitely have to write good questions and keep away from the bad questions. Even if a stakeholder or a coworker asks for these terrible questions, you have to eliminate them or, rewrite them in a way that will be not crappy and not give us flawed, biased data. Plexus has a good point here from the previous question. He says, recently our e-com team has said to stop calling our business units stakeholders and call them partners, to stop the idea that we will do their bidding and that we work for them. We work with them. I love that. I'm going to put that up on the screen. As I say in my book, in my Delta CX book, let's not burn stakeholders at the stake. That's not why they're called stakeholders. And that we do have to find a way to work with them, not for them. And we have to stop crumbling when they ask us for something. We just can't say, yes. We can't be order takers. We can't teach them we take orders. Or if we teach them that, they'll never break out of that habit. So I think that's going to be the short version. We have so many questions. So short version on these. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to knock that out. And really quickly want to remind everybody to usability test the subscribe button and subscribe to the Delta CX channel for all the content. I usually go live 2 to 4 times a week. Every Tuesday is office hours. And won't you please have empathy for the like button and give it a click and tell the YouTube algorithm we are all friends here. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at our next questions. How do we know we're writing good usability tasks besides avoiding being biased? Last time I did this, there was a lot of back and forth between the UX people working on it on how things should be worded. I think it's okay to agonize a little bit on how things should be worded because how you word something can affect a task. When I teach engineers about UX, not to do our jobs, just to understand us, I do a tree test task with them and I show them what a flawed question can end up doing to a tree test. And my flawed question is, you are interested in AirPods for your iPhone. And I biased it by saying for your iPhone. Now in a tree test, you go, oh, I must need to go to the iPhone section. When it turns out that's not where it is. I totally set them up for failure. I think it's okay to agonize a little bit on wording. There are times where I rewrite questions a number of times. Maybe I show it to a client or somebody a little bit outside of my inner circle and they see something I didn't notice. So how do I know we're writing good usability tasks? You kind of have to put on your possible outcomes hat, which I don't own. I do not have a possible outcomes hat, so you have to imagine me in a hat. And basically I say, okay, what are some things that are likely to happen here if we gave people a task worded this way? And I think the shorter you can word it and the simpler you can make it, the better. The more you are adding explanations, the more you are adding dependent clauses and subordinate clauses and adjectives and and stuff, the more you are probably biasing it. So think about what is the shortest, simplest, most declarative way you can explain the task. And I try to stick to something really simple, like you are trying to buy a labor law poster for San Mateo, California. Go. And the San Mateo was important because we had some different choices of cities and we wanted them to pick San Mateo. But I try to keep it really short. If you are starting to write more than 20 or so words, it's probably too long. So think about, just put on your critical thinking, detective, deductive reasoning, possible outcomes hat, and think about, is there something I've written in here that could send somebody to the right or wrong answer because of how we said this. And Maggie says, keep it simple, stupid. Well, you're not stupid. You're a low ego action hero. But hopefully that answers your question. And again, everybody's always welcome to ask follow-up questions to the questions. You can ask them in the YouTube or LinkedIn chat. You can also send in the anonymous question thingy. We've got another new anonymous question, but I still have a list of them, so I promise I will get to them today. Though again, we do have a hard stop about 35 minutes from now. I'm hoping to have a nice dinner out with my boyfriend, and hopefully he will let me know if we have the reservation we were hoping to make. We found out quite by accident that one of our favorite restaurants, which is only open in the summer, decided because of COVID, tonight's their last night serving for the entire season. And we were like, oh, must eat there. But we don't know if they can accommodate us, so we're waiting to hear. Hopefully that helps. Next question. What's a good use of a mind map? What are some examples of integrating it as part of the UX process? I've seen some examples lately, but I've never found a reason to use one. Love this question. Love. I always want people to think critically about some of these documents and deliverables and things that people think we should make. And in general, I have not found a use for a mind map either. Is this a mind map of what I think? Is this a mind map of what somebody else thinks? I find that some people will try to use a mind map format where others use an affinity diagram. So trying to synthesize and well, maybe not synthesize, but put out some of their notes from research and see what they've got. Some people will do that in an affinity diagram format. Some people will do it in a mind map format. I think we're really just talking about different visualizations and formats of organizing information. So I probably am a little bit more of a mural board user. They don't pay me to say that, so I just happen to like them, and more than Miro. So I have not found a reason for a mind map either. I do not have good examples of integrating it in a UX process because I'm not doing it either. So I would say Google for that and see if you stumble on something you like, but it sounds like you haven't yet. And I'm not going to talk you, to me, if I don't have a good reason to make a document or deliverable, I shouldn't make it. That's part of being lean. Lean is truly about reducing waste where we can. It's not about going faster. And if you can go faster, that's great. But ultimately, lean is about reducing waste. And if a document is meaningless, or an artifact, or a deliverable, or a report, or something, if it's not going to be meaningful or actionable to other people, I can't think of a good reason to make it. So, for example, I don't do storyboarding. I can't think of a reason to do that. Especially the versions I see on boot camp portfolios, where it's a storyboard of how happy the customer will be when we make them something they like. Not actionable, dreamy, aspirational, futuristic, not necessarily reality. So pass. Thanks for the question. Hi, Debbie. Have you set a fee for coaching somebody who's enrolled in UX Design Institute? Also, do you have a list available of the books you recommend for aspiring designers to read? Double question. Thank you to that person. I do not say publicly. Okay, so I do say publicly. So let's talk about books. I do not have a good list of books. I suggest people Google Darren Hood UX books. He's the guy. He's been on the show like 4 times, maybe more. And he keeps a list of UX books, so I think it's a little outdated. I don't think my book's on it. I am deeply wounded. Darren, where are you? But he keeps a list of good UX books. I refer people to him. I don't remember the URL, but if you Google Darren Hood UX books, you'll probably find it. Whenever I say that, Maggie goes and finds it and she pastes it. So, but Maggie, you don't have to do it. I just noticed sometimes you do it. Other question was coaching. Okay, so whether you're in UXDI, a boot camp, self-studying, online courses, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, I do coaching. And other people do too. So I don't want people to feel like I am hard selling here. This is the soft sell. I am an option and I'm one of many. I do mentoring and coaching, but I normally do that paid because I just can't afford to give a lot more of my time away for free. I'm already live streaming to you guys 4 hours a week and doing some other things. So I'm currently charging, as of recording this, here's the date, September 8th, 2020. I am currently charging $50 American per half hour. If you want an hour, that's $100. I have an online calendar I can put the link to up here. Let's see, where's my call out? Here we go. Let's edit this. And this is, I think this is it. No. Let's try that. I think this link should work. Let's put it up on the screen. deltacx.link/coaching. I think will take you to my online calendar. You're offered a 15-minute free coaching session with me to see if you like working with me or not. And if you do, then you can use the other thing on that page, which is book your paid appointment. Now, I tend to suggest that if people like the free session with me, they book maybe 2 half hours a week because there's lots of work for me to review. UXDI and many things out there, they do not review your work. They generally don't review your work, or sometimes they review your work when you hand it in. They go, oh, by the way, you could have done this. And you're like, I want to fix it. So to me, my coaching is, when you're in a program, is a lot about let's look at your work and improve your work and level up your work and fill in the holes in any of the curriculum for the school, your program you're doing while we're doing that project. So for UXDI starts you with 4 assignments that have to do with research, but they never have you make a research plan. So I try to inspire my coaching clients to start with a research plan because that's what we do in real life. We don't just start calling people up and asking questions. Research plan. UXDI also badly glosses over information architecture, which I find hugely important. So I end up giving you a couple of extra assignments there. Obviously, you don't have to do them, and UXDI doesn't require them because they're not going to be grading you on that, and they barely grade you. But so no matter what program you're in, that's the kind of relationship I'm looking to have to people who are open to coaching. Oh, I unplugged my fan. Now I'm dying over here. Okay, so that's, but contact me privately. Sign up for the free 15 minutes. Let's talk more about it. I just shot a video today, but I haven't uploaded it yet on do I still recommend UXDI? And my answer in general is probably not. I think it's better than some other ones because it doesn't focus on visual design and coding. It just focuses on UX, but it's got a lot of holes, which I can fill, but it'll cost you because you need my time. It's got a lot of holes. And they really don't give you feedback. They claim you get mentoring, but they have like a group call once a month, and you don't always get feedback on your stuff. So I would have to say I'm recommending them less and less. But certainly it's a program that does not try to make you be an artist or a coder, and for that I like it. So thank you for asking, anonymous person. Next, hi, love your talks. Thank you. What's the actual difference of CX and UX? I see X bigger than UX because consumer and customer is different than users, and you're not yellowish or magenta. Thank you, but am I cyan? And guys, that's all the questions. No, I've got one more question after that. So that after the next questions, we are caught up if you want to ask more questions. So let's check. All right, so let's take a look at that question. What's the difference between CX and UX? So once upon a time, in the early 90s, Don Norman invented the term UX. And by the way, I'm going to write this down because I'm shooting a bunch of short videos between 2 and 5 minutes that answer common questions, and this needs to be one of them. CX versus UX. I think I shot 10 of them today, but I haven't edited them yet. So they'll come out soon. Edited them yet. So this is a great one. So once upon a time, Don Norman came up with the term user experience, and he did that in the early 90s. And there's a video on video on YouTube you can watch about it. I think it's called like the term UX or something like that. And he talks about how he imagined that UX and the user experience was every experience a user or customer could have with a company or the product. Researching a product, going into the store, picking it out, carrying it to their car. He thought all of this was the user experience. What happened over time was somehow the term got changed. I don't know by whom, but it ended up meaning digital experiences. UX ended up meaning the customer, user, potential users experience with a digital item. So screens, computers, laptops. I've got a Surface Pro here. I've got an Android phone here. I also have a smartwatch I'm not wearing. I have an Android watch. So UX is now mostly considered to be screens. Now, we know, some of us who are more veteran in this, we know that UX is a lot more than that. We know it can be service design. We know it can be about other types of things. But most people tend to think of UX as the people who sketch the screens. So it became very much about screens. Somewhere along the way, the term CX popped up, and it's kind of an umbrella term. CX is customer experience. Now, to me, customer and user are pretty much the same thing. Whoever is going to be using this thing, buying this thing, trying this thing, going to your hotel, watching your movie, whatever it is, they're a user, they're a customer. I don't get too wrapped up in this, though. I think I prefer customer because it reminds us that they're probably paying. So somebody came up with customer experience and they said, ooh, this is all of the touch points that someone has with your brand. This is going into the store. This is going to the hotel. This is blah, blah, blah. So UX was booking the hotel from the app or the website, and then CX was like going to the hotel and experiencing it. I like to use the term CX for all of it. I think that UX is badly misunderstood. I think we need a branding shift ourselves because people think UX are the people who sketch screens and anyone can do it, yet they think CX is this amazing, wonderful thing that we need to invest in. Whenever you hear customer centricity, people say CX. Very few people go UX after that. So there's in some ways there is no difference, and in some ways there is a difference. I believe that we should shift our terms to CX. I'm starting to see more people and more jobs shift to CX, and I think that's going to be important for us in the long run because UX is so misunderstood that I think we just have to step out of that term and walk away. So is CX bigger? Yes, but UX done right is bigger. When I worked in Macy's, not in the store, in the digital team, we wanted to be involved in the stores because the stores were such a mess for Macy's. And people said, no, you can't be involved in the stores. That's some other team. And we were like, that's a crappy silo because we're good at this stuff and you should let us work on it. And they wouldn't. So CX, maybe we can work on it. Some people think CX is your customer support team, so just note there are two different definitions out there. But outside of, to me, you would need less customer support if you made a better customer experience. And just a reminder, please, usability test the subscribe button. Let's make sure that it works. Would you please check on that for me? Don't forget, you can also join our Slack channel, totally free. Over 250 people in there now. deltacx.link/join Slack. And of course, empathize with the like button. Press like. Tell YouTube this is good stuff. Thank you so much. I ask for so little. So we have one more anonymous question, and then we'll be caught up. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, you can use the anonymous URL, deltacx.link/AMA, or you can use the YouTube or LinkedIn chat. I'm not seeing any chats come from LinkedIn today. Let me just go refresh that window and see if something's broken in my chat system. Are you guys asking questions and I'm not seeing it? No, but you are pressing nice things. Let's see. Eleonora pressed claps, And Faisal, good to see you, pressed likes. And Syed pressed likes. And VJ pressed likes. And someone without a picture pressed hearts. Thank you for the hearts. Tice, I don't know how to pronounce that. Help, write it phonetically. I don't know. I need help with names. You guys know this. If you've been watching me, I'm so bad with names. And in turn, people are bad with my name. So I'm always happy to be like, yes, please, say whatever you want. I'm so bad with names. And Eleonora says, looking forward to see and share the short video on UX versus CX. Yes, you saw how long it took me to answer that, so I will shoot a short video, and I'm going to try to get some of those up by the end of the week, but I do have a lot of real work to do as well, so it is not the top of my priority list. I am not a YouTuber who makes money off this, so at least not of when I'm recording, as of when I'm recording this, so it is a little bit of a lower priority, but I was recording today for like an hour, and I'm going to try to chop it up, but that one I didn't record yet, so thank you for your patience. Paul says, I'm stalking you on YouTube now. Good, Paul. I'm for it. Let's put you up here. Paul is stalking me on YouTube. I'm okay with that, as long as that's as far as it goes. So, sounds good. Let's check if we've got anonymous questions. Okay, no. So let's go back to the last anonymous question that I've got on the list, and then we'll see what other questions people have. Faisal says, no questions today. Okay, Faisal, no problem. Come back next week if you have some, or if you just want to hang out. How do you articulate? Oh, wait, Harshit had another question along the way. I've got to throw that one in as well. So let's get that in after this one. Okay. And because I can already see your question, Harshit, I'm going to have to ask you, what do you mean? Product proposition. Do you mean the establishing the value of a product, or what do you mean? So Harshit's asking about product proposition, and can you tell me what you mean by that, or do you need me to tell you what I think it is? So you clear that up while I answer this other question. So the other question was, how do you articulate the need and benefits, if you think there are any, to still do face-to-face research now that the business has seen that remote research is possible, cheaper, and quicker? Possible and cheaper / quicker. So I've always been a huge lover of the remote research. I've very rarely done the in-person research. So I love it. I'm usually good at reading voices. I can hear small changes in voices. I listen for the pauses. I listen for the sighs. Not sighs of something, the sigh. I watch their faces. So I dig that stuff, but I also know there's a great benefit to doing things in person. So I think it really depends on what you're doing and whether or not it translates well to remote. Right now I'm doing a study where we are interviewing people and then we're watching them do something on a website. Now I can see their face on the camera and I can see their screen on the screen share. So I could do that in person, but I think it's really fine to do remotely. Do I need to do that in person? Maybe not, but it depends. If you're doing more of the type of study where you are watching people more from afar, as an example, Larry Marine talks about a study he did many years ago for ProFlowers where they were trying to improve how people ordered on their website, and the problem was they had made website ordering very different than the way people walked into florists and bought flowers, but they didn't figure that out until Larry Marine did. And what he did was he just hung out in florists and watched people. And then maybe he asked them some follow-up questions on their way out, but it wasn't like he had research participants who were going to talk to him and then show him something and talk to him again and the end. He was really just observing natural human behavior in a natural environment. That one's going to be a little bit harder to do without being in person. So I think there are going to be some types of studies that work better in person, but I think there's a lot of stuff, especially if we are interview heavy or digital observation, that are going to translate really well. So I think the main benefit for face-to-face is when you are trying to observe something that's a little less controlled, like Larry was just trying to watch how people order flowers. Another suggestion I gave to someone once, they said they were an intern, I think, with Delta Airlines, and they were wondering how checking in for a flight could be easier. This was a year or two ago. And I said, And they were running a survey. I said, don't run a survey of how could checking in be easier. Go watch people checking in. Go stand there. Go watch people checking in and watch where it gets frustrating. It gets confusing. It falls apart. So that would be harder to do remotely. Paul says, usability tasks, remote equals fine. If I'm looking to get something from the person, oops, he's got half a message here. I see a note coming in from LinkedIn, and I wonder if it's from Larry himself. Let's go check. I have to refresh because LinkedIn is so bad at showing me comments. Why, yes, it's Larry talking about his ProFlowers example. Larry, good to see you again. Larry says it's worthy to note that those ProFlowers observations completely changed the online florist business. And they did, because before that, people were trying to sell flowers by build your own bouquet. They assumed you knew what flowers you wanted. I want 2 daffodils and 3 tulips. But really, Larry discovered that people shop by occasion. They shop by, hey, I need to apologize to my partner. Hey, it's grandma's birthday. But they don't know what flowers are right for that. There was a knowledge gap there. So again, there's lots more you can read about Larry's adventures there, but the work Larry did, I don't think could be replaced by digital and Zoom and things like that. You got to be there. You got to be there, and you got to watch peeps. Let's check the question list. I am caught up, except for Harshit's question, so keep those questions coming. I'm here another 13 minutes or so. And let's also ask my boyfriend if we have dinner reservations. Paul was saying people have Zoom behavior and a different one if they sit across from me. I don't think I trust Zoom behaviors as 100% reliable. Yeah, there are many people who feel like they don't really read someone completely or can do a good observational study if they're not sitting there and getting the full body language down to the toes. And I see that. I get it. Oh, evidently we have dinner reservations. Thank you, honey. Wherever you are in my house. So that means we stop in exactly 13 minutes, everybody, because I've got the last dinner reservation of the season at the good restaurant. So let's take a look at Harshit's question, which let's bring it up, and because his picture is so good. What is the product proposition? Now, I haven't heard this too much. It sometimes doesn't sneak into the UX universe, so I have to admit I am not as familiar with this term. But and maybe you guys listening now, Paul, Larry, other people, what do you believe is the product proposition? But to me, it would be kind of a value proposition. What are we're proposing some sort of product or feature. Why? Where does it match the strategy of our company or the goals of our company? Where does it match the goals, needs, and tasks of our customers, our users, our potential customers, whoever they are? Maggie says, enjoy dinner in 13 minutes. So this might be some sort of document trying to detail, like, what's the point of building this thing? What is the value of it? What's going to be the value to the potential user, customer, whatever you want to call them? So I would imagine that it would cover how it aligns with our business strategies, goals, and initiatives, how it aligns with customer needs and tasks or jobs to be done, which of course we only know if we've done good qualitative research. So sometimes that might bring up a gap. Holy cats, we don't know. Why are we doing this? Do customers want it? We better go research this and make sure. Paul asks if the value proposition comes from marketing. Sometimes some of this can come from marketing. It can come from product managers. I've seen a lot of different people try to chip into this to say this is the value of building this. And that value could be internal to the company. This is why we want to do this for our side of things. And it could be external to the customer or user for why we would build it for them. And really it should cover both. We got more questions coming in. You guys got really scared that I'm not going to stay late today. So Harshit, I don't have a super great answer for you because I don't use these or write these. But certainly, no matter what we do, we should always be clear on why the heck are we doing this. So it's important to tie projects back to business strategies, business goals, because otherwise we end up building things on whims. And of course, tie them directly to customer needs, tasks, motivations, things like that. So that would be my suggestion there. And thank you for that. Slide out. Okay, we got 2 questions in just now anonymously. One says, what is the best route to enter the UX design field? I don't have a short answer for that, so I'm going to put something up on the screen. And you're gonna do this because I said so. Okay, let's put this up on the screen. Slide. So this is a playlist in the YouTube channel. You can also go to playlists and you can find, I think it's called Learning UX and Career Transition or something like that. These are a bunch of the broadcasts that we've done in our podcasts. Many of them are interviews to talk about how to get into UX. And because I get asked that a lot, there is no 5-minute answer. There's really just a lot of podcasts I recommend. Remember, everything archived in the YouTube channel is number 1, free. And number 2, you can listen to it at high speed. You can listen to it at 1.5x, 2x. You can really blow through this stuff if you want to. So there's that. So I would say that would be the answer. It's really hard for me to say how to get into UX because there's many paths into UX and you have to find the one that works for you. You probably know I'm not a big fan of boot camps and many university programs, so I don't have great answers to that right now, but please watch some of the other videos that might give you some help and ideas. So thank you there. Paul, you're so weird, but you did that. Let me see. The other anonymous question said, the biggest challenge I face at work is other UC designers. I'm assuming you wanted to hit the letter X and you hit C. UX designers, how do you reason with someone and get them on board with your approach when theirs is clearly wrong? By wrong, I mean obviously too biased, or starting with a solution in mind and they're clearly trying to push it before the research. Well, first of all, they don't sound like they're very good UX designers. They sound like imposters. So number 1, I'm sorry you are working with imposters. I said it. It is very hard to reason with people with certain personality types. When people are egotistical, when people need to be right, when people believe there's only one true way. These are all very difficult. These are really tough, and you sometimes cannot easily convince that person. So I don't have a lot of great answers here. Normally, what you can try to do, I mean, I guess another question is, why are you trying to convince other UX designers to do things right? And why don't you have the power or autonomy to choose what happens here? Why does it sound like this other person chooses what happens here? Why aren't you choosing what happens here? Because you know the right way to do this. So I guess a little question about, you know, why do you not have the power to make the decision here? Because that sounds like we could make this a lot better pretty fast if we gave you the power. So it's hard because if you are successful in pointing out this person's biases or their solution-first approach, they could get defensive. They could get aggressive. It really depends on their personality type. So how you handle these people, for me, it varies because I have to read them. I have to read what's going to get through to this person. Is anything going to get through to this person? Or am I going to have to play some weird game and try to circumvent them? Am I going to have to try to say, well, let's try this project my way. We did the last project your way. I don't even know. So I think that I don't have a great single answer here because I would really need to know more about some of the personalities in play, because I'm a very much read the particular person I'm dealing with, predict some of their behaviors, and start heading them off at the pass before they exhibit those behaviors. So, for example, when I was at Macy's, I worked with a couple of product managers who were absolute liars and would manipulate data. So I would do things before they got the chance to lie and before they got the chance to manipulate data to put other information out there. To try to make it harder for them to spin their webs. So perhaps some of it can be improved by beating this person to the punch with something that they're not going to be able to disagree with. You can also send them to some of my videos. There's I have plenty of videos that end up talking about why solution first isn't right. Maggie's going, I don't know what that's in response to, but it looks serious. Larry's got a question, though I think Larry can answer this better than I can. So Larry, I don't know why you're asking it. You should be answering it. But Larry asks, what are good scenarios where remote observations do work well? Now, again, this is going to be very opinion-based because there are things that I feel work well for me, and there are things where other people go, no, that doesn't work well. I've got to be in the room with the person. I've got to be smelling distance from them. I've got to see if they're wiggling their toe. So there's going to be different opinions on here, and I'm not going to say there's only one right way, but for me, I would say nearly all of the qualitative interviews that I've done, I have done remotely. Sometimes over phone without even seeing people. Sometimes over a Zoom type of thing with seeing people. I believe those work well for me. Now, does that mean there's something I missed because I couldn't see those people or because I wasn't there that day? Sure, there's probably some things I missed because I wasn't there in person. But can I still do some amazing work without that? I sure hope so, especially in a pandemic where I'm even afraid to go out to dinner, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I find that for myself, I'm confident in my ability to get a lot of amazing data out of remote observational stuff because I am confident in my ability to read people from a lot of dimensions, from watching where they move their mouse to where they scroll on the screen, to the faces that they make, to the tones of their voice, to the sigh, to the pause, to the stress in voice. I can hear stress in voice. I can hear small changes in people's voice because I'm a musician, so I'm a singer, so I tend to hear things in voices pretty well. But, other people might have strengths more in body language than in that, and so they want to be there in real life. So I think there are a lot of remote observational scenarios that can work, but I think it's also up to the researcher, not only for the researcher's personal taste and preferences in how they want to conduct it, but what the topic is. Because we were just talking about how if you really want to watch people in a flower shop, you got to be in the flower shop, and that's just not going to really work remotely. If you want to watch people checking in for a flight, you got to be there checking in for the flight. Just not going to work remotely. So I think that's just going to be different for different people, and I don't have a great way to say, always do this. So hopefully that helps. But Larry, I would always want to hear your answer to this because you are someone I greatly admire. Everybody follow Larry on LinkedIn if you are not. I've got 2 minutes left, so I think we're just going to go with show notes. Oh, no, I've got one more question. Come on, peeps. I got one more question. Oh, someone said, thanks for taking my questions. When do you post the recording? I want to go back and hear what I missed when I took a phone call. Yeah, no problem. So as I always tell you guys every week, these are all archived on YouTube pretty much instantaneously. It does take YouTube about a day to process the video. So at first it starts out kind of low quality and funky, but it is on YouTube immediately. When I get back from dinner, I will add it to the playlist for office hours. And so there's an office hours playlist with all of them if you ever want to go through them. Also, I put all of the questions you asked in the description. So if you're wondering what did we cover today, check the description. I haven't always done that, so some of them are blank, but I've tried to do that the last couple of months so you know what's in an office hour. So these are always archived on YouTube immediately. The ones that I call podcasts that are numbered, those go out the next day on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. So if you don't mind audio only, where we don't have to worry what color my skin is, you can find those there as well. So quick show notes, taking a look at the upcoming schedule for the Delta CX channel. Tomorrow we're going to have the wonderful Joel Barr back to talk about bad UX portfolio advice we've seen given and debunking it. So you want that? Thursday the 10th of September, we're going to have Laurel Elders on. She is a life and business coach, and she's going to talk about finding your life purpose. Bye, Harshit. That's Thursday, finding your life purpose. So all of you people who ask me, is UX right for me? Don't ask me, ask Laurel. That's what she does. Next week, Monday, I have to double check with our guest, but I think we have an anonymous guest who would like to talk about their bad experience in a boot camp. So that might be Monday, but I have to double check. Tuesday, office hours, ask me anything. Wednesday the 16th, Sam Harper, that's his name, right? He'll be on the show talking about a great Medium article he wrote a couple of weeks ago that I want to make sure people read and get him talking about it and answering questions. Monday the 21st, this says placeholder. Oh, with Stephanie. I don't remember what our topic is. I'll get back to you. Tuesday the 22nd, office hours. And then we've got Monday the 28th, service design. And Wednesday the 30th, chatbot and conversational UX. So I've got most of September planned. I hope you will mark your calendars. Rowan says, thanks, Debbie. I enjoy your sessions. Have a nice dinner. Thank you, Rowan. I think it's the first time I've seen your name here. So welcome, welcome. Don't forget to usability test the subscribe button and the bell. Make sure they're working. Click them so that they are on. And of course, empathize. Step 1, show empathy for the like button. Let YouTube know this is good stuff, and they should drag more people to the channel. So on that note, I am going to have to get out of here. I hope that is okay for everybody. I do this every week, so keep your questions coming. Everybody have a great, safe night. Be safe. Wear the mask. I know I will be in between courses. And I will see you tomorrow. I will have a food baby, and I'll be like, oh, my God, I overate. I'll be complaining tomorrow, but right now I'm still happy. So everybody be well. Thanks for joining. And I guess I'll see y'all hopefully tomorrow and coming up again soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Delta CX is available for consulting and projects related to CX and UX strategy, leadership, training, problem finding, problem solving, and innovation. Learn more at deltacx.com.